good news. In the end, they consume themselves. Always, asked Robespierre. Well, you can't. He's been beheaded. Last night, and we're getting to the point, the mayor of Portland, Oregon, a character called Tom Wheeler, got a taste of that himself. He joined his city's ongoing riot. He was there to express solidarity with the mob. When he arrived, though, he was not greeted as a hero. He was booed. His name was Ted, not Tom, by the way. He was booed. He was told to resign. He was handed a list of demands by the angry children, and then he was tear gassed by federal law enforcement. Here's part of it. Well, the mayor ended up scurrying away like a little rodent, fleeing on foot, but he was safe because he was surrounded by 5 taxpayer-financed bodyguards with guns. Do you have those? I don't think so. Ted Wheeler does. He wasn't harmed, thanks to them, thanks to you for paying for them. Here's some footage of the riot that Wheeler had showed up to support. Well, the Portland Police Department, maybe the last organization in the city that can at least kind of tell the truth, describe what you just saw as a riot, maybe no. The administration has sent federal law enforcement, as we said, to the city to try and calm things down, maybe save some property, maybe save a life. The president just announced a new operation to combat violent crime in America's cities, so it's getting broader. Stephen Miller is a senior advisor to the president. We're happy to have him on tonight. Mr. Miller, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
So I cannot resist asking you about Mayor Ted Wheeler, who's been encouraging violence now for months. He shows up at a riot that he helped create with 5 armed bodyguards. Is there anything the federal government can do to strip the taxpayer-funded armed bodyguards from people like Ted Wheeler? People of Portland have to live with this violence. Ted Wheeler protects himself at their expense. Is there anything that the administration can do about that? It's too outrageous.
It's a really great question, certainly worth looking at. But I will make this point. The Democratic Party, for a long time, historically, has been the party of secession. What you're seeing today is the Democratic Party returning to its roots. These are mayors and governors that are saying the federal law, the U.S. Constitution, doesn't apply within the confines of our city, and our citizens will be held at the mercy of the mob. And the administration of justice, the federal courthouse, will be allowed to fall under siege. And that's what's happening right now in Portland.
Yeah, that's pretty, but it's been happening. I mean, cities across the country for the last 4 years have declared themselves exempt from federal immigration law. And with respect, no one's done anything about it. So this has been a slow-moving disaster that no one tried to stop.
Well, the mayors of these cities that have engaged in these kinds of lawless rebellions against federal law, against immigration enforcement, have engaged in unprecedented activity, and this administration, for the first time in history, has taken action to restore immigration enforcement after 5 decades of bipartisan betrayal of the American worker. You know this better than anybody, Tucker. For half a century, American workers were sold out, betrayed by politicians, had their jobs shipped overseas, and had cheap foreign labor imported to drive down their wages and take away the wealth that they need to support their families. And we've stood up to that, and this president has stood up to that. But let me tell you about Portland. You have 100 brave DHS officers standing up against that lawless mob. They should be celebrated. They should be celebrated as heroes. A number of them have been injured. 16, I believe, have been injured. 3 ICE officers with the strike response team have been seriously wounded in the eye by the use of lasers pointed at their retinas. And they may never fully recover their sight. We don't even know. But this is a lawless assault urged on by this mayor, and this administration won't stand for it, just like we won't stand for the lawless murder of civilians in the city of Chicago.
So what are you going to do about it in Portland?
Well, in the case of Portland, number one is we will not let that courthouse be burned to the ground. We will hold that line, and we will enforce federal law U.S. Code Section 40.315 that allows us to protect that building, or 1315, I should say. I would note, by the way, that the same politicians condemning the Department of Homeland Security voted for that law in 2002. And that law says shall protect federal property. And that's what we're doing. Just like in Operation Legend, to fight violent crime, different issue than mob violence, but to fight violent crime, it's the largest surge that has ever occurred to deal with the problem of violent crime. Now, that responsibility still falls mostly on the shoulders of police departments in our local communities, but this government is still going to step up and use DEA, FBI, ATF, and DHS to try to keep our citizens safe.
Good luck. A lot of people rooting for you in that, for sure.
This is about the survival of this country, and we will not back down.
You shouldn't. Thanks so much for that. Appreciate it.
Thank you.